What's going on, guys? It's episode 4 of Throne Breaks. I'm your host, Al King, aka Big Al, and today we have another guest, a very well-known guest, host of the Hobby is Alive podcast, one of the Blesnick brothers. That's right, we have C Blez, aka Chad, on. You'll find out that he doesn't even want to be called that anymore. He's strictly C Blez. We might even change his legal name. I can't wait to get to that interview, and on the back end, I have another mail day. This time, unlike the others that I didn't know what was in it, I know what's in this. It's a lot of Kobe cards. Really excited to get to that. As you know, big Kobe guy here. But first, I want to just talk a little bit about C Blez before we get into his interview. He, as we all know, is making the rounds. He's traveling to all the shows he can. He's now hosting the podcast. There's just a lot of stories about C Blez out there that you either know or you don't. And you can find it. There's a couple videos on YouTube about his side hustle and how he made money in sports cards and all that stuff that Whistle does. It's really good pieces on Chad. But without further ado, let's just get right into the interview with C Blez. Hey, what's going on, guys? I got Chad Blesnick, aka C Blez, with me. And Chad, does it feel like your name is maybe more C Blez than Chad now? Does anyone even call you Chad anymore?
People don't even know my name, and I don't even want to be called by my name. Just call me C Blez. That's what I want to hear.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's like a famous nickname now that I'll just call you C Blez from now on. Then I even when I see you in the real world, I'll still call you C. I won't even call you Chad anymore.
I like that, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Hey, the first question I always like to start with is, when did you start collecting and why? How long have you been collecting?
So I got into the hobby in about 2003. The way I got in was pretty much my two older brothers combined with the fact that LeBron was coming in. I was always a big sports fanatic my whole life since I was like 4 or 5. My older brothers are 5 years older and 8 years older. So LeBron came in, and also my dad is in the corporate world. He's in the business world. So I kind of always had a mix of like sports and business. And to me, the hobby kind of combines those elements very well. Because as a young kid, you can learn so much buying, selling, trading, and people call it investing, whatever you want to say. But you learn so much, and Gary Vee says it too. It's like all the principles that he uses today to conduct his business, he learned from the sports card industry. So I got in 2003 when LeBron was the most hyped thing of all time. He was way more hyped than Zion even. It's hard to compare it because we weren't in the social media age back in 03 and we are now. But LeBron was so hyped. They were actually covering him in high school. I don't know if people remember. But they were covering him in high school. They do that now. But back in the day, that was unheard of to cover someone that young. He was called the Chosen One. He was the king. And the boxes were not that expensive. Back in the day, I had a local card shop in my town. I became friends with the owner, and yeah, LeBron kind of got me back in. I joined the hobby in 2003. I actually went to the National that year with my brothers.
Wow.
And I just stuck it out, never left. I always loved the principles in the hobby and just sort of like the elements that combine other businesses and bring it into sports cards. I just love the excitement, the fact that you could buy a card and sell it for more quickly, the fact that you can buy a card, hold it for 3 years, and it might be worth a lot more, it might be worth a lot less. I love volatility, I love risk, and I just love the sports card hobby.
Yeah, no, this is the place for it. And you're right. Back in 03, covering high schoolers was unheard of. And LeBron was on Sports Illustrated magazines. He was on ESPN magazines.
Exactly.
He was everywhere. If social media was a thing back then, it would have been, you're right, it would have been absolutely bananas with LeBron.
Yeah, he kind of like laid out the blueprint, and people think that we've been spoiled the last few years with these rookie classes. A lot of these players are coming in and they're performing at such a high level right away, but it's not normal. Usually it's like 1 in 5 years, 1 in 7 years, we'll see a player like LeBron, like Zion, like Luca. But lately, a lot of players have been performing. So maybe it's a new trend, or I don't know.
Yeah, we have been spoiled. You're right. You said it. You said it correctly. Since 1920 produced Jaw and Zion,
Yeah.
1819 Luca Trey, 2021 Maxi Halliburton, Edwards, Lamelo, right? And then this last year's class. I mean, you love this last year's class. You got a few guys that you love. Before we get to that, I know you just started a new podcast called The Hobby Is Alive. You wanna kind of just tell us what that's about and how that came around?
Yeah, so I decided to get involved in a podcast. I just think that it's good to try out as many different avenues as you can because my life is sports cards. I don't really do much else besides sports cards and sports. So I just want to try out all the different avenues there are and see what I'm good at and then just roll with that. And I think that the interviews and podcasts is something that I enjoy a lot. And I like talking about the stories around the hobby, not just investing and trading. So with the Hobby is Alive podcast, I'm gonna be bringing on guests pretty much every time, and I'm trying to get people who do different things within the sports card space that they're experts on because I want to learn. There's so much to learn in the hobby. It's not like one person can know everything. It's like pretty much impossible.
Yeah,
So I want to bring in people on subjects that I know a little bit about and I'm trying to learn more. And I'm bringing in experts to just pick their brains and talk about them and also give them a chance to speak on a platform that maybe gets more views or something like that. It's good marketing for them also. So it's kind of a double win-win for both of us.
yeah, I love that. What I saw your last interview with Vortex Sports Cards, Andrew. Andrew and I both kind of started on TikTok around the same time, and Andrew stuck with it and has become who he has become, and it's freaking incredible to see. So it's just great. And TikTok, that growth strategy on TikTok, which I'm sure you guys talked about on there, it's unreal what TikTok can blow. It can just blow up your business 1,000%.
The thing is with TikTok, you just get way more of an organic reach, which
Hmm.
is amazing. It's like you can post, you can not have an account, create an account tomorrow, and get 1,000 views on a video.
It's
It's like
wild.
if you do that on Instagram, you're probably not going to get that many views, and if you do it on YouTube, you're probably going to get even less. So
Right.
it's like it has the most organic reach. So TikTok's definitely a place where I'm focusing more on, and I think a lot of people should too.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, you're traveling to shows like almost every week now, right? Just kind of
Yeah.
tell me what that's been like, and what excites you about that, and what are some pros and what are some if you want to give me like a negative too, maybe you can find one.
So I've been going to shows, I would say, for the last 3 or 4 months. For me, I'm like a feel person. So I like to go and see what's actually happening with my own two eyes. I have a lot of friends in the hobby that tell me what's going on, but it's different when you see it in person. So I like to go to the shows and just see like how much money's being transacted or like who the hot players are and stuff like that. So I would say a positive about going to the shows is what is you could see who's hot, and then it makes if you're a flipper, which I've been getting into that a little bit over the past couple months just to see what the flippers are doing and get a feel for it. You go to the shows to figure out who the hot players are, and then those are the best players to buy in the short term because people want them. People want those players, so you can flip it and make a quick $200 on $1,000 card or something like that.
Right.
So that's definitely a big benefit. And speaking of cons, I would say the shows in the last couple weeks have not been as busy as the previous few months, but I think a lot of that is due to market conditions. It's not really the shows. A lot of the shows that are being put on are fantastic events, but when the market is down, you're always going to see less transactions, less people buying, and It's just common. The hobby goes through ebbs and flows, and
Mm,
right now we're on a downtick. But that could just mean good buying opportunities, and
sure.
no one can predict the market. You just got to find ways, find these little nooks and crannies to just navigate through the market and just figure out what's going to be the best move for you.
Well, and something I've noticed over the years is around the holiday season, it generally kind of slows down anyways, because I think people that are spending their own money on their own things like cards and other different collectibles are now using that money to, put toward their holiday trip or put toward their gifts for their family or, XYZ. So I think the holiday season generally kind of has a slowdown for collectibles anyways.
I agree with you 100%. People are they're focused on Christmas, they're focused on the holidays, Thanksgiving, whatever. Usually what I've seen is once we hit Q1, which is January, February of next year, everybody now has their Christmas money. People don't really have as much expenses as the end of the year is like the most expensive time, I feel like, for people in general.
Hmm.
Travel's a lot more, vacations are a lot more. I 100% agree with you. I think we're going to see an uptick in Q1, but it's impossible to predict the market.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, so some guys I want to talk to you about. Everyone's high on the usual suspects: Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham. Those guys. But you are particularly high on Franz Wagner, Sengun, right? You love Sengun, and even Santi Aldama, right? So why these dudes? Why are you looking for them?
So a lot of what I do in when I'm buying basketball cards is I like to go a little bit deeper than the average person because I watch a lot of basketball, I watch a lot of college basketball, and I've seen these guys playing for a few years more than the average person. So I like to consider myself pretty good at figuring out like who I think is going to be good down the line. When you buy the top players in a class, it's just kind of tougher to make money because if you're going to hold for a while, you need the market to go up to make money. But if you buy a guy like Franz Wagner, who's a quarter of the price of Jalen Green and Cade, you don't need the market to go up really. If he plays as good as Jalen Green and Cade, he now has 75% of room to come in and be priced higher. So that's why I like to look at players who aren't necessarily hyped right now, but I think that eventually in the coming months, in the coming years, they could perform better and gain hype. And that's just how I see it. I like to buy the top players too if I think they're going to be generational.
Sure.
But like I said before, it doesn't happen every year. Like Luka Doncic, when he came in, he was the top player in the class, but I spent thousands of dollars on him because I really believe that he was the guy that was better than everybody else in the 5 to 7 years of classes around him. You can't just compare guys to their class. You kind of have to compare guys to the era, to the generation, and to the players around them.
Yeah, no, and Luca. I mean, you nailed it with Luca, right? Do you want to share? Do you want to share a little bit of your Luca story with us, or?
Yeah,
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
So pretty much Luka came in 2018. The market was nowhere near as high. The National, which is the biggest card show they hold every year, his base prism and a PSA 10, his base prism raw was $10 to $15, and his PSA 10 prism was like 75, I think, maybe 60. So Luca, his rookie year, he wasn't like Luca, but he showed flashes. So I decided that I thought the market was super underpriced at the time too, and I thought Luca had a chance to be generational, so it kind of worked together. So I pretty much took like over 50% of my total bankroll and put it into any Luka Doncic card that I could find, literally in the summer of 2018.
Yeah,
And then coming out of the gates in 2019, Luka performed like insane. He was averaging probably 30 a game for the first 15 games, something like that. And the market also exploded at the time. That was the time where cards were literally going up every day. It didn't matter what was going on. You just kind of knew the next day the card was going to be worth more.
sure.
So I pretty much put all my money into Luka. And yeah, I mean, he came out of the gates on fire. The market went up, and I ended up selling a lot of the base stuff, the silver stuff that isn't as rare, to get into more rare stuff. But it was just Luca pretty much changed my life. He gave me the opportunity to invest harder today and do some things that I want to do today. But it's a crazy story. Sports cards literally changed my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing. And on that note, think back to 2003 when you were just a kid. Did you think you would be where you're at now because of the sports card hobby?
No. I mean, I honestly, sports cards, I'm obsessed with. I'm obsessed with. It's my number one thing, like in my life. But I didn't really understand that I could do it full time until about early in college. I didn't really like, because I was always taught like go to college, get a job, get a degree, do this, follow the process. But especially in the modern world, it's kind of trending away from that, and people are kind of doing what they love, which I love to see. People should try to be happier and chase their dreams, chase what they love. But to be honest, I really didn't think sports cards was going to be a career, but now I don't see myself ever leaving the business of sports cards.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. And to a kid who's in the hobby now, who is maybe having these conversations with their parents, saying things like, "No, people are doing this for a living, this and that." What would you say to that kid?
I would say just do what your parents want if you're living under their household, but on the side, do what you want. So you got to work twice as hard. You got to do what they want because you're living under their roof and it's their rules unless you're paying for everything. But if you're not paying for everything, you do what they want and then you make TikToks, you make YouTube videos on your off time, I would say.
And what's crazy to me is there are kids in the hobby today, 12 years old, that are making they're paying bills. You know what I mean? They're literally paying some of the bills so they can travel to these shows just based off of the sports card market. So it's crazy what has become of the market since 2003, and you've seen it all.
Yeah, I've interviewed a ton of kids recently, literally, who are like 20 years old and less. And I go to all the shows and I see these kids who are like 17, 16 with like big cards. And it's like, how did you get there? It's like they flip their way. They flip their way and they just work their way up. And it's amazing to see. I mean, I'm a collector and a flipper, but I think the flipping aspect of the hobby, people look at it as negative, but it's actually good because it brings in a whole new audience to the hobby that wouldn't be there if they couldn't make money. So flipping is actually a good thing, and I think the flippers need to be treated just as well as collectors because everybody's just as important to the ecosystem of the hobby as the next person. But everybody participates in the hobby in different ways, but the way they do it, it's all special to them, and I love it all. I mean, it's not just one way to get to anything, even in life. There's so many ways to get to the same outcome. You don't have to just go one way, and that's definitely shown in the sports card hobby.
Yeah, no, I think you said it perfectly with the ecosystem. We all represent a part of the ecosystem, and just like in real life and in science, every part of the ecosystem has to be there for the ecosystem to stay alive, to thrive. So I think you said that perfectly. Last thing I like to try to do is, if you have any of your favorite PC cards, maybe 2 or 3 that you want to show.
To be honest, my main PC stuff I keep like in my bank. Like I don't like to because they're such high value items. Yeah. I don't like to just keep them around.
Sure.
But what do I have here? I have. This isn't a PC card, but I got a LeBron Topps Chrome BGS 9. I'm looking to sell. But everyone knows I probably have more cards than any single person. I wouldn't say that, but I have thousands of cards. I have thousands of cards at PSA right now, and
your stuff is insane. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you could probably build a tiny city with, slabs if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, exactly.
before we hop off, just give us some shameless plugs. Every plug you can. Where can the people find you? How can they find you? When can they find you? All the above.
So you can find me on pretty much any social media every day. My main is YouTube right now. I'm doing TikTok. I'm doing Twitter. I have a newsletter that goes out every day. You can subscribe to that. Go through the link tree on my bios on pretty much all of them. The Hobby is Alive podcast that comes out once a week. Make sure you're subscribed to that YouTube channel and that Instagram page. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much grinding. You can see my grind on social media. If anyone's paying attention, it's like content takes a lot of work. I'm posting on 4 or 5 platforms multiple times per day, plus the newsletter, plus the podcast. I'm going to card shows. It's just, you can pretty much find me anywhere. That's the
grind. The grind doesn't stop. The hobby is alive.
The hobby never sleeps.
The hobby never sleeps. So at CBlez for all the Instagram handles, at Hobby is Alive for the podcast. Hit the link tree in both of those. Subscribe to the newsletter. It's worth it. CBlez, I appreciate your time, dude.
I appreciate you having me on here. I love chatting with you.
Yo, special thanks to CBlez. Had a lot of fun talking with him. You can see and hear the passion for the hobby that he has. And just talking about, the kids in the hobby, how he's came from being a kid in the hobby to where he's at now, what he's trying to do for the kids in the hobby, and just his overall enjoyment of life and the hobby right now is something that, I envy for sure, and I think many of us do. And I'm just stoked to see CBlez continue to go out there, do his thing, meet people, shake hands, meet kids, all that stuff. Just keep pushing on, CBlez. Thank you again for your time. Super awesome interview. And, I'll see you around. I'll see you around soon, whenever it may be. We're buds, right? We're buds? Anyways, on to the mail day. Kobe Bryant. This mail day is from Jeremy, and he's a friend of mine in Idaho. We met when I was breaking on Whatnot. Him and I have just become kind of pretty solid friends, online buds, hobby homies, if you will. His whole family is amazing. Jeremy, Stacy, Rudy, their other kids. I don't want to name drop their kids' names, but all of them. Curry collectors, Joe Ingles collectors, yes, Joe Ingles collectors, Rudy Gobert collectors, Luka collectors, cool card collectors, Donovan Mitchell, everyone you can think of, Darren Fox. They're amazing people, but I know what's in here. They know I'm a Kobe collector. Kobe's in here. Kobe's in here. Let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. This is the first mail day of this season that I know what's in here. As far as card contents, I know it's Kobe. It's been a while since I looked at them, so some of the exact cards I won't exactly remember, but I do know we have an oversized card, like top loader card. I almost showed the old Addy there. Not good. I finally found my box cutter too, guys. Excitement. Excitement. This must be the plus size card. Very clever packaging. Yo, look at that. Look at this. Year in review, 97-98 Upper Deck Choice. UD Choice. That is sick. Let's take it out. Let's take it out. Oh man. Oh man. I gotta get a frame for this thing. A little tiny frame. Not so tiny frame, I guess. Hell yeah. Bryant All-Star debut. Kobe, 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 Kobe. Sick. Alright. He tossed that in too. So shout out Jeremy for that deal. Here we go. Okay, yes. The Winner Stays card out of Donruss. I like the look of these. I think there might be two of them. The sticker head. UD Choice again. Collector's Choice. Upper Deck. I like this one a lot. Skybox Z-Force. Double up. Double up. Yeah, those are sick. This is a familiar card. This is a very familiar card. Why? I think I showed this on another episode. Graded. Double up. It's hard for me to say no to any Kobe cards. If you know me, it's very hard for me to say no. Another Z-Force. 97, second year. Look how young. Oh, look, he threw in some Simons. Simons is my new collector. Simons is the new kid for me. Kobe. Rookie. Winner Stays again. I knew there was two. One-on-one, Kobe Bryant, Sharif Abdul-Rahim. I have this one as well, I believe, already in my top loader binder. I have this one graded already. And then Contenders, 1920 Contenders Optic, winning ticket. He signs in 1920. It was his last auto, I believe. 1920 Contenders Optic. Had a buddy that hit it. Crazy. That would be an absolute dream for me. Jeremy, thank you so much for the haul. Thank you for throwing in the top loader. Thank you for sneaking in a Simons. I don't even remember if we said yes or no to that. But thank you very much, Jeremy. Mad respect, Jeremy, and his whole family. That was fun. Thank you for the Kobe's. Again, thank you to Chad for his time on the interview. This was episode 4 of Thrown Breaks. Kobe Mail Day. Oversized Kobe card. Just so you guys get an idea how big it is. Look how much larger it is. Frame this thing. Frame this thing. Thank you, Jeremy and family. Thank you, Chad. Thank you to all of you. Hopefully this show and interview was enjoyable for you as it was for me. Until next time, don't forget how awesome you are. I gotta bounce. Peace.